Okay, you guys are ready?
Yep.
Ready.
Steady.
Already. Okay, remember tonight is all about fun. Okay,
Yeah, we'll try.
we'll try. Come on, let's have some fun.
Yeah.
we've been we've been serious all year round, right?
Well, like
Get
I
your-
said, all we can do is try. I'm
Okay,
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I know. Get your glass of wine. Maybe it put you in a better mood. Remember, tonight I'm that girl. So, for those who have
Okay.
not heard stuff, you're gonna hear it tonight. Okay.
Okay. Like I tell people, I tell
I'm
people,
sorry.
I tell people I make wine, but I don't drink it.
Ah,
Okay, I got that.
okay.
Okay, so let me do a quick rundown. As you guys know, this is Spice Island Queen. I'm a certified sexologist. My background is in finance. That became too boring. I leave that to Mr. Husbands. So I'm all about the sexuality and enhancing your relationship. Okay,
Okay.
good, good. So my co-host Carmen, would you like to introduce yourself? Oh, Miss Coward is getting her wine. Okay. Eric Berryman. Hey, give her a moment. She's got to get that wine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting wine.
Carmen.
Carmen,
Oh,
how? Check her out.
oh,
Didn't I tell you she's getting that wine? Okay.
oh. All I heard was wine.
Okay.
I didn't hear who.
Uh, Carmen, could you introduce yourself, please?
Of course. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
My name is Carmen Coward. Um, in the blood is Perryman, and I'm from Grenada. I am a general and special education teacher here in New York. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in gen ed and one in special education. Good night. Welcome to our uncomfortable talk. I'm excited. And this is Liquid Fire.
Mm,
All right.
yeah.
Salute.
Carmen's on fire. Don't mess with her tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. Eric, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Eric. Um, I'm also a teacher, but instead of in New York, in Newark, New Jersey. Um, yeah, and let's get started.
Hi, Eric.
Hey, Michael, how you doing?
How well yourself?
I'm good.
That's what they're supposed to say at the AAA meetings.
Wow.
When you introduce yourself.
Okay. Michael Royster.
Hi, Michael Royster, electrical contractor, teach electrical courses at night, and welcome for a fun part of the evening
Hey,
to
okay, you
everyone.
can't wait till that part.
Yeah.
I only want to talk about sex, baby.
You know what they used to say back home? Those who talk about it don't do it.
Ah,
Well, you might be right about
That's
that.
what you
COVID got,
think.
Mr. Husband,
That's what
COVID
you
got us
think.
stuck. Hey,
yeah.
listen, COVID got us stuck, man.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
Right.
But that was the old stuff back then.
Yeah,
That was the old stuff. It's like, hey,
listen, I'm the educator.
understand,
There you go.
Okay, okay,
There
understand.
you
okay.
go.
All right. So tonight topic is tradition. And tradition is something that's handed down from our ancestors. It could be a religious belief, but it's a custom that's passed down from generation to generation. So tonight we're going to talk about some of the ones that we still do, and the ones that we got rid of. Okay. Um, and as usual, The uncomfortable conversation, whatever we say, everything is not for everyone. Just that I ask you be respectful, be mindful of your tone, because some people are affected by tone. No insults, and let's be respectful and enjoy the conversation. Sometimes you just have to skip over the things that do not apply to you, okay? As I see sometimes on Facebook, people feel the need to comment or have a rebuttal for everything, but our opinion is just that it's ours. Okay, information here. All right, so I'm gonna skip all the way down here. So tonight we're gonna have some real fun. So there's some prizes to win, but the only thing is, note here, all winners pay for shipping, okay? All right, guys?
Right.
Got you.
Right. Okay, so let's go back up to our conversation. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So, okay, let's talk about the tradition, things that we've been doing as a child. The only, that our parents enforced on us or forced us to do, made us do it, um, whether we like it or not. And the ones that we carried over versus the one that we dropped. Okay. And if we continue to do it, why do we continue to do it? So for me, is cleaning the house. We had to clean from top to bottom, wash the curtains. I think if we could have washed the street,
That's if you want to be on. Because I'm going.
if we could have cleaned the street, didn't make us clean the streets, right? But and the curtains, everything had to be washed. The floor scrub, get on our knees and scrub the floors. Well, that's one I got rid of. The other thing that was a must for us girls growing up in the house that we had to wash our underwears. Mom didn't want to see no underwears in the laundry. And
Hey,
believe it or not, that is one that I took with me and I still do it. I wouldn't embarrass anybody, but I used to make my kids do it when they were younger. It was a girl thing, but I just carried on. Still do it.
I still do it,
And
Beverly. This is Claudette.
Okay.
now you think about it, it wasn't that bad. The
No.
other thing that the baking, we had to bake so much. I never learned how to bake, but I learned how to taste. So I know good baking.
mm,
Okay. So that was my experience. Anybody else wants to share?
Well, like this is Claudette. Like Beverly said, we had to clean. I'm from Jamaica. I grew
I
up there.
saw
We had
that.
to clean, go down on our knees and do the floors. And I remember one weekend, I had some friends came over, and the Sunday morning, we call it veranda, was messed up. So I had to go and clean it before I go to church. No asking. I had to do it. But I grew up and I like cleaning the house still. And as Beverly said about the clothes, underclothes, I grew up, we had to do that. And I still do it. I don't put them in the laundry.
Be good.
They come
Thanks for
out nice
sharing.
and fresh.
Anybody else like to share?
but another thing, my mother had us three boys and then a girl, and I think because we were just not good listeners until we were forced to by some hand loving, belt loving stuff like that. Especially me out of the three, so we had to make our bed. We had to keep a clear pathway, put the clothes away, laundry when we got of age. I would say probably somewhere at 4th, 5th, 6th on, make our beds. And I was always wondering why, when I'm the only one or we're the only ones that's getting in our beds, when we only gonna get back? Why do we have to make it? And then it was because I said so. And you're gonna grow up, you need to learn your hygiene to be better and so on. And it's until probably when I got to middle school, I kind of got it. Then I started doing that, and then went to the military. Was another thing just saying, neat, you gotta have structure, make your bed, keep your clothes and so on. And it's kind of like I got it then. Still don't want to do it, but I think it's good for being organized. And I try to pass that to my daughters. They did way better than me, but good.
Anybody else would like to share?
We're talking about like holiday traditions or just traditions in general.
Tradition in general. I mean, it could be holidays, something that you celebrate, something that you don't, something that your parents made you do, whatever it is that is consistent that kept carrying on. Tradition is also cultural, religion.
Mm, ironically, a lot of things from my childhood I don't even do anymore. So I don't even think that as an adult, any traditions from childhood is like continued on. So I guess I've broken traditions.
Yeah, make your bed.
I'll jump in when you're ready.
Yeah, I don't always make my bed.
Uh,
Anyone
Yeah,
else like to share?
yeah, I'll share. Could you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Greetings to everyone.
Greetings.
Hope Greetings, you're Charles. How are you? the season thus far. What I could take from my childhood in terms of tradition, and that which has lasted the test of time, I would say getting out of bed. My mom used to chase myself and my brother out of bed, even on the weekend, even on Sunday morning or Saturday, there is no school, with a broomstick. With a broomstick. You want to lie down in bed and the sun rising and all of that on you?
Yeah, tough love.
You would get some on your shin bone or on your kneecap. You're going to fly out of the bed fast. Right? Go get a broom, probably sweep all the, we had cocoa trees, you know, like back in the country, up in the country. So all the leaves that the wind blow and all of that, I hated that. But to this day, I would wake up before she come with the broomstick. I mean, even if she's not here, she's back in Grenada now. I cannot stay in bed. It doesn't matter if I go to a party or whatever it is, and I come back home late. By 5 o'clock, I'm out of there. And I cannot just lay in a bed. 8, 9, 10, 11, rolling and all of that. Even when I'm not at work, I just gotta get up, maybe come on my desk over here or something. To this day, I cannot remain just lazing, doing nothing in bed. I'm gone. So I think that has had an impact on me, probably for the good. I don't know. Super active, find something to do, get involved in something to this day. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Anyone else?
Beverly, can I
Okay,
share?
you guys share, 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 share.
And
Text
this
your
is Yvette.
friends.
Beverly,
I'm sorry. Yes.
you know, I shared some of the same experience I think the young man Dennis had shared, where, well, I grew up with my grandmother, and we were told that you don't let the sun get up before you. So you had to get up in the morning, and the only time they would say a bedroom is you stay in the room if you're sick, because you always got to get up. And something I encourage even with my children, but now my daughter's grown, she's on her own. She can get up whenever she wants. But long as you're in my house, I'm not going to get up while you're laying in the bed sleeping. Because we also grew up with the saying that you have to make hay while the sun shines. So while the sun is up, you got to go up, because once the sun is down, you know, there's no time for you to work.
Right. No, I agree. It was the same way with us. We couldn't sleep. And to this day now, I am not a sleeper. Even when I don't have to go to work, I get up early. Sometimes if I go to bed at 9, by 1, 2 o'clock, I'm up. I can't go back to sleep.
But some of those things are like shared discipline, because
Correct.
you discipline your mind to get up, you discipline your mind to get things done, but you also discipline yourself to provide rest.
True. Yeah, I think though our bodies, like now that we don't have anyone to tell us when to get up or when to go to sleep, we have developed that discipline, but your body actually knows when you need rest. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else wants to share?
Sure. Oh, well, this is Cheryl. So I
Hi,
had,
Cheryl.
hi, probably the same Sunday morning cleanup things we had to do. My brother and I, every Saturday morning, we would start, and we were able to have the TV on sometimes, but in order for us to watch Soul Train, which came on at 11, everything had to be done before Soul Train. And you know, when I had kids, at some point we got away from that. I think because when my brother and I were growing up, the extracurricular activities that we were involved in happened during the week, like at school or after school. But when my kids were growing up, everything starts on a Saturday morning, and we had them in everything. So my kids really didn't clean up like on the weekends, because we were at Pop Warner football or some cheer game. So we kind of got away from that and had to learn to just clean up during the week, when we had time.
Okay, so Cheryl, do you wish that you were able to teach them the things that you learned at that
Well,
age?
they learned it, but they just didn't learn it like
You know?
on the weekends, because
Oh, okay.
these kids these days were just so busy. We had them in a lot of things. But I miss that part. My brother and I, we talk about that now as we're older. It was fun, in the growing up, having to get stuff done so we could chill and watch Soul Train. But and my kids, they didn't have that experience. We also used to shop for Easter clothes. I mean, that was a big thing. We did that annually. We would go into Philly, hit our normal little stores, get my outfit. My brother got his suit. That was something else I got away from as my kids came into the picture and got older, because the church that we went to, it was come as you are. A lot of people don't get dressed up for Easter, like we did back in the day. It's very rare sometimes to see the little girls with their little bonnets and stuff. So we kind of got away from that, but that was a nice tradition that my family and we used to do.
Thank
The
you for
funny thing I was
sharing,
thinking
Cheryl.
today, we were doing housework. I was talking to my sister, and we were saying housework was like forced labor.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because your parents always tell you have to do it and you got to do it.
Yeah.
And then they'll come with a scripture, by the sweat of your brow, you eat bread. It's always a Bible verse to support whatever they're doing.
How come
We didn't
nobody?
have
Go ahead.
we didn't have Bible verse. We had the switch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spoil the rod, spare the rod
Spare
and
the
spoil the
rod and
child.
spoil the child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What they call it, the rod of correction.
Yes.
For sure.
I want to ask if anybody had to go some of you probably grew up in the city, but I'm a country boy, right? So in the back of our house, we call it the land. You know,
Till the
you
land.
had to go get spices and all of that to boil, to drink for cleansing, whatever that word means. But today it's
Yep.
relevant, right?
Yes.
Cleansing. Did they ever beat you to go get Coralie? This thing is so bitter to drink. Sometimes soursop leaf with no milk in it. I want my stuff with milk. I used to hate that week of cleansing. And or black sage. There's another one called black sage. I don't know if you guys know about that.
Jericho bush.
Jericho
Yeah.
bush? Okay. We're in Grenada, we call it black sage. But now with all this COVID thing and all of that, we are realizing how wise our parents and grandparents were, because those
Absolutely.
things are definitely healthy for you.
Absolutely. That's was the reason why they did it. Because
Correct.
they knew what we were eating, and they knew from their own experience what was needed to that. You had the cleansing. We had castor oil, we had Cersei bush, we had green leaf, we had all those different things that we had to take ever so often. And it was, if you didn't like it, you got hit. You had a stick or a belt, and here's this teaspoon of some sugar. Drink it down, take it, because guess what? No matter what, you better take that because we gotta clean you out.
It was always
And
when
like,
school let out. That was our biggest thing. They couldn't wait till school let out so we can give us
right.
those. But the funny thing is, I still do that. I have my Karila bush now, and I faithfully, like, I have so many different herbs that I rotate taking them.
Yeah, and that's personally why I feel for the most part our bodies are a little bit stronger and can deal with some of what's going on around us than the average person born and raised in this country, because we had the basis and the genesis of strengthening our bodies and making our bodies that much cleaner because of what we grew up doing in the beginning.
Correct.
But do you know they still talk about cleansing, but it's in a more scientific way in
Or
which they do it,
spiritual.
because the same medicines that we use, our foreparents use,
Yes.
they are using it, but what they're doing is adding other harmful stuff to it.
Yes.
Yes.
And then they're calling it a cleanser, which is not really a cleanser, because
Right.
they're using those herbs, because there are times when, even at the beginning of the pandemic, people were talking about going back to Eden and using those herbs, using all of those things. Because people are using those stuff, they're mixing it and they're selling it to you at a higher price.
Right.
And it's doing more harm to
Harm
your
done good.
Correct.
than
Right.
good. Because we're talking about old ways. Some of the old ways to me are good.
Yes.
Because I was always taught that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And I find it to be a good thing, because when I was working, I always try to at least get a good breakfast, because once you go into work, you would walk that floor, whether you're doing a 12-hour shift or an 8-hour shift, never to have a chance, not even to go to the bathroom again.
Oh.
Until you get home.
No,
And
that's
sometimes
that's
when you get
that's
home, the
true.
pee is ready to come out. The pee's at the door before, as soon as you put that key in the door,
Right?
that
You know,
pee is ready to come
you
out. It
never saw
doesn't
that
even give you a
commercial
chance to come in.
where the lady, when she got home, she went into the bathroom and washed her
Wow.
face.
But you
She
see,
let
we
it
don't
all
talk
loose.
about bathroom. There's 4 things. We don't talk about sex. We don't talk about death. We don't talk about bowel movement. Those are still part of life.
Yes.
Like she said, it's uncomfortable to talk about those things, but those are important things.
Correct.
To me, only I know American way and what I know with reading history and being around other people. the way it seemed to me, a tradition from where multiple will hear from and hear the love, the family, togetherness is one thing. But what I get from various stories that I hear is similar, but from different areas.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the American way, as I've grown up to find that it's kind of a mess, because where I know only what I know, what my mother, grandmother, my father, grandfather, to a degree, but then find out where folks similar to what I look like and what I experienced, some religious, some other ways. American way is a little off, as I found, and what I continue to hear, what your experience is coming from other parts of countries and continents here to the America.
Yeah.
But you see, what I realize here is that, you see, our grandparents, they tell you the truth in a subtle way,
Mm-hmm.
but here they lie to you in a truthful way.
In a sincere way.
Okay.
Because what they have taken is tradition. Because if you look back in history, for most Blacks, because a lot of medicinal information was given to people, what they did is take what they have learned and stretch it to create a profit.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, they know cocoa is good for you, because most diseases, there's one cure and one disease. They can cure diabetes, they can cure heart disease. But if they cure those things,
Can't make money.
they're not going to make money, because one of the things that is in full control is the drug company. Because in order
Correct.
to make the problem, instead of making the problem go away, they would give you a pill for high blood pressure,
Cause a side
but
effect.
then it's going to cause constipation. Then you're going to have to take a pill for constipation. You're going to have to take a pill for your stomach because you're going to have stomach ulcer.
Mm-hmm.
Then for some men, there are some medications that some men should not take. I firmly believe that someone should not be on drugs for more than a year, because anything could be controlled with diet. Food is medicine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take food, then you're not going to buy medicine. If you don't buy medicine, because we're living in a country which is an organization, and in order for that organization to flourish, they have to keep selling a product.
Mm-hmm.
Like a regular organization, in order to make money, you have to do a fundraiser
Mm-hmm.
to make a profit. And if they don't make a profit, they're not going to succeed. So it's more money than health, because health has taken a turn over the years where people put profit over health.
That is correct.
And health is a personal choice. Working in the field, I always tell people, I said, don't be upset with me, but health is your personal choice.
Mm-hmm.
I can do 1, 2, 3, 4 because I have certain orders, but I have to question those orders because I have to take responsibility for what I give. But you have to take responsibility for what you take.
That is
In
correct.
other words, you have the power to say no, and you have to understand that, because when you keep saying yes, then they're going to keep giving and giving and giving, and you're going to have more problems. You're going to end up with constipation. You're going to end up with kidney disease. We're going to put you on dialysis. Now we're going to have to give you more drugs to maintain. Or we're going to do a transplant, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that. But it's a personal choice that we have to make, because we all do make personal choices.
Right, but
I
if
always
we
tell my
don't know
children,
better, if we
Yeah.
don't know better, if you don't know better, because the doctors is telling you, a lot of people who don't know better trust in everything that a doctor tells them. Like I know I go to doctors so they can tell me what's wrong with me so I can come and use my own remedies that I have. And sometimes, you can't sit there, oh yeah, I use this or I use that, because what would they think? Oh, you're practicing witchcraft, right? If we said, I'm serious,
Yes.
the things that I used to give my children when they were younger, if I told the doctor that, I'd probably be in jail still.
Oh boy.
Hmm.
And that's true.
But you see, from
So,
small, when the children have an ear infection, they start giving antibiotics.
correct.
Antibiotics. So the
Okay,
children,
so
by the time they meet a certain age,
Mm-hmm.
their immune
Dependent.
system is so depressed
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
that they cannot, no matter if you give them an antibiotic,
doesn't
because for topics that we know that things are recorded, that you can't say the truth, you get in trouble
right.
for telling the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Can I?
when we talk about tradition, when I was a kid and something wrong with our ears, what did they do? They put pee in your ears and you were cured in 5 minutes, right?
They used to put olive oil. They used to, my grandmother used to warm
And
olive
they
oil
say,
and put it in your ears.
no,
Yeah, hot
my
oil.
grandmother, they said your first pee in the morning, because your pee
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
becomes
remember that. Yeah.
contaminated, right?
Right.
So you have
Mhm.
to use the
Yes,
first one of the morning, and that's how it
exactly.
was.
Oh, I forgot
Mm-hmm.
that. Forgot that,
And that
Beverly.
worked?
I
It
forgot.
worked with
It
magic.
worked?
Yes.
Never heard.
Yes.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
uric acid, so you're gonna melt the wax. But here's something that I wanted to add. I think on what Yvette had said. When you really look at it, we have sickness care versus wellness care or good health care. If you look at Europe, the model over there is to prevent you from getting sick in the first place, not necessarily to make a profit. Here is to maintain your sickness so that they
Right.
could make a buck.
Right. Right.
Right, instead of
Yeah.
health.
And
Right.
that's right. So you have tradition versus the new economy where everybody wants to make a money, and the doctors need to make the big salary, 200,000-300,000 a year and whatever.
Mhm.
But you go back to ancient times, let's say Egypt, and just naturally, one of the most important products out there is honey.
Mm-hmm.
Because when the Egyptians, when the pharaohs, they go to war, they work with that. They invade everybody. And honey doesn't spoil. Honey cannot rust. You don't have to refrigerate honey. Practically, there is no shelf life. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
just stays there. Summer, spring, fall, whatever, right?
Mhm.
So virus cannot last on it. Germs cannot. So normally when they get wounded in battle, they just rub the whole thing with honey, right? And you're good to go. So if you
Exactly.
use honey with turmeric, a little ginger and some lemon, that is my
Mm-hmm.
recipe every day. Every day.
But you know why? Because bacteria feeds on sugar. So instead of the bacteria eating the skin, because the skin itself or the body itself is bacteria and virus. Because when you die, the bacteria in your body deteriorates. And
Mm-hmm.
when the bacteria deteriorates, then the viruses starts to feed. Because they talk about a balance, you have to have so much percent bacteria, so much percent. They talk about the pH is 7,
Mm-hmm. Right.
because you can't, if you get, when you, for diabetics, your A1C, it should be about 5.6 or 6. If it's about 7, you got to start watching, because once the sugar gets there, because now when you sweat. There's a saying we used to say, you am what you name.
Yes.
You, so whatever you eat, that's who you are. You are what you eat, in other words. And what they're trying to do is to change the mindset, because someone talk about the way you think. because health, because stress throws the body pH balance off when you start to stress, because you become what you fight. And when you fight, because they're saying, okay, with this virus, you use a lot of hand sanitizer. I told my grandchildren, use soap and water, because the alcohol breaks the skin down. It breaks the pH of the skin. And then the viruses and the bacteria in the atmosphere, it starts to attack your skin. That's how you get sick. Because you always got to maintain a balance within your body. Because if you take your hands, for instance, your mouth has a different on your eyes. You put your hand on your skin and you put it in your eyes, you get an infection because the bacteria there is not what is used for the eyes. You take your hand, that's why they talk about hand washing. Because what they're doing is you're training your mind. You see, the mind is controls your body. Your mind controls your health. And the world, like I always tell my patients, World Health Organization says, and they might change it so people can believe it, it's physical, it's mental. So when you have a physical injury, you have an emotional hurt, you have spiritual, it changes the dynamics of everything, your social, everything, because once you have a physical, now you don't want to socialize. Your emotion is off, your mental thinking is off, because now you're scared. Now you're thinking about your body image because of this physical injury. The injury may not heal because depends on where you put in most of your focus on. If you put in your focus on healing, because you can heal yourself. Your mind, you have to heal yourself, because your mind, when you're sick, if you focus on sickness, then you will be more sick, because there are people that can make themselves so sick.
Right.
They can show the real symptoms, but they're not sick.
When I think about tradition, I think that I did not bring from home is the idea that I need to get up and go to a party at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And the reason why I changed that is because I learned my history. Because back in the days, the slave master used to be up. And the only time Black people could find any form of entertainment, like get married or name their children on the African tradition, was at 11, 12 o'clock in the night when the master went to sleep. They would do it in the back houses, as they call it in those days. And unfortunately, we as Caribbean people and some Americans think that going to a fete at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning is still the in thing. I never raised my children like that. I did not participate in that because I knew my history. I am not a slave anymore. I don't need to get up and go to a party 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. I can go out and socialize with friends and family and be back home. Like when Beverly and I go out to meet, we have a dinner, and then by 9 o'clock, everybody is in their house getting a good night rest. So that's one tradition that I kind of dispelled off a long time ago, and my kids never participated in it. Another tradition I did not take from home is the idea that because I'm the adult, my word is final. No, I raised my children to have their own opinion, but give your opinion in a respectful way.
Yes.
Because the idea that people telling you do what I say and not what I do is just ludicrous to me, because it's like a pastor preaching to people, telling them one thing and living a completely different life. Kids are looking at you. That's why they have no respect for us as adults, because they're looking at us like, who do you think you are? I saw you last night. I know what you did. I know you telling me don't do this and don't do it because I say don't do it. No. So No. So I don't operate like that. I never did that. I never will.
That would not work today, Carmen. But when we were younger, we better not have thought like that, right? And you talk about
Correct.
they would have no respect. We had respect because we knew better. Now we talk about
I don't know
whole
if it's
different.
respect, Bev. We were forced to do it. It's not respect, it's fear.
It's fair, but guess what? We did it and we knew better. We knew not to go against whatever they said to us. Otherwise, what happens? The abuse, right? Because as far as I'm
Right. We would
concerned,
get a
that's
beat
exactly
down,
what it was.
right?
It was
So
abuse.
that's not respect. Respect is when you can have a discussion with your children on when you believe that children have a voice and they could voice their opinion and have a discussion in a
Right,
respectful way. That's respect. I was
right.
forced to do it.
But when we talk about tradition, they didn't look at that because remember, their mother did it to them, right? So that's what it was passed down. Who broke that cycle? We broke that cycle,
Yes.
Yes, I did. Yes.
right? Right. We broke that cycle because I was the same way. It was kids are supposed to be seen and not be heard. If we don't hear them, how would we know what's going on with them?
And
So I think
I think we also changed that.
we broke that tradition because
But you see,
we
we
not
changed it
saying that
because
we're
we did not
not
like
saying
it.
that we're friends with our children, but they have that respect and they understand that we are the parents. But we need to know what's going on with you. If something happened, who are you going to tell? We were so fearful that we couldn't talk to our parents. We couldn't tell them what was going on with them, with us. Yeah.
Correct.
And I believe we changed it because we didn't like it. And we let them know respectfully because I remember having that conversation with my dad. And I told him, I said, you, no matter how old I am, you will still be my father. But I am an adult. And I respect because I respect you. I am demanding that same respect from you. The relationship does not change. I demand respect from my children.
Well, the thing is not so much that we ch- we didn't change from them because I never said to my mother, okay, now you can't tell me this, you can't do that. We became
Correct.
adults and we were not going to do the things that you do. And as
Correct.
adults, they can't come into our house basically and
Correct.
tell us how to run our life.
Correct.
But the thing is, even as old as I am, when my mom has dementia now, but I know that when I go there, I still act accordingly. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
I wouldn't talk back, like, even though oh God, because I said to myself, oh, whatever, same thing like when you were a kid, you just like, okay, whatever, you speak under your breath. That's that custom. But when I go back to my life, that's my life.
Yes. Because even for me, right, Bev, when my mom was
Mhm.
alive, may she rest peacefully. If I didn't like something my mom said to me, I would tell her, you know what, Mom? I'll call you back. And even if it took 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month,
Thank you.
I'm not calling you
Right.
back until I could speak to you respectfully.
But
Yeah.
see,
But
with me, Carmen, I was going to my own home, so I didn't have to argue with her. I didn't have to say, okay, I disagree with you, because guess what? I'm not living in your house. I'm not going to do what you say, but do I have to go back and forth with her? No, I don't. You know? And I think,
right,
and it has nothing to do with disrespect or needing to find myself with them, is I'm going home. So you can keep going all you want. I'm going home.
correct.
It's not going to come in
Respectfully.
my correct. It's not
I
like
don't
these
know.
little kids now where they have to go on, they have to challenge you, they have to, do all of that. We're not doing that. And I think it has a lot. And, we may had disagree with it, Carmen, and the rest of you guys on here, but sometimes I look back at my life and I'm grateful because they didn't know better. That's what was passed down to them. But when you look at it and you look at the change today, I'm still grateful for the way that I was brought up.
Mhm.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But you see, the thing is that we have to understand, and one thing I said to my friend, I am not my mother, and you are not me. You are my child,
Mhm. Right.
and I am your mother. You know, because we grew up, I don't know if anyone on the line grew up with the same children obey your parents, that your
Yeah.
days will be long on the land.
Yes.
And you had to repeat it in school. Every time you go to school, you had to repeat a verse.
But there's also an aspect of that saying that very often is left unsaid. It is parents do not provoke your children to anger.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that is all too often left out in the conversation. It's a two-way street.
Yes.
Amen.
Absolutely. I agree. Yes.
Good point.
Correct. And for me, I was always analytical, and I was always one of those kids that got a bop in the mouth, because I was always one of those kids that would be like, what are you saying exactly? Here you are doing this, and you're telling me that. And I would get it in my mouth. I was always one that questioned everything and everyone. And my sister could tell you, I got so much beating. And because I was always very logical, asking, but you're telling me to do this, but I saw you doing that, right? And so I challenged everyone, and I paid for it, right? And if I had to do it again, I would still do it again. Challenge, because it didn't make sense.
Well, times are different now. Like me, I used to get a lot of beating, but I was afraid of beating, so I tried to be very good. But my sister, on the other hand, was like you, Carmen. That mouth, that if you
Mm.
told my sister not to, it's like saying just go and do it. And the thing is, as soon as I know or going to get a beating, I start crying. That'd be hours of
Mm.
crying. My sister, she would stand there, just like hit me if you want, and she would cry.
Ah, wow.
But I think our parents didn't know better. They do what they knew.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what that's
And we
exactly
know
what
Yeah.
I
better.
said. That's exactly tradition. Their great
Mhm.
grandmother did it, their grandmother did it, they pass it down to them. And
Mhm.
if they didn't grow up with a mother, and we grew up with grandparents, that's what they did. If you grew up with grandparents, it's even worse for you.
Wait.
You know
Well,
something, Bev? Let me
uh,
give you a joke before I go. I have a preparation coming up. My dad used to really be bad,
mm.
and I was scared of him. So I used to run. If my sister and I have a fight, she was older than me and bigger than me. So I look for a little stone, but I had to run, you know. You can't catch me. I took
That
a
is
stone. She was going to get my dad. Well, my dad know I'm going to take off and run, right? I'm
Right.
gone. So he used to pretend nothing happening and he's not interested in beating me and
Mm.
then grab me. But he had to tie me, so tie me on a sugar apple tree
Wow.
before he got to get that branch, that switch. I'm tired. Oh
Ah,
my, that was looking
that
back
is
at it now,
funny.
he died, but I was terrified, but he had to laugh at it because God, if I
Yes.
know he intended to do that, wherever
You'd be
I'm
gone.
going, I'm taking off. I'm gone.
I bet you won't. I bet you're not doing that with your children.
No, 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 no. I don't.
So you
Well,
broke that tradition.
yeah.
Mhm.
Sure.
well, sometimes you also have to understand from the perspective, as Beverly was saying, our parents did not know really much better. They got the information, they got the way and ability to do most of what they did from their parents, from their forefathers, and so on and so forth. When we got more and more educated, we started making changes within our relationships with our parents. If you look at most of our parents, they did not have time or the opportunity to be educated.
Mm,
So they did what they knew, that they were taught and they experienced. When we
mm,
started going to school and we started experiencing and started thinking for ourselves, then we looked at things differently. Part of
mhm,
the issue for myself at this point is that psychologically, we've gone too far to the other extreme, where kids these days are allowed to do whatever they want with no parameters, no guidelines for the most part. So they abuse their parents, whereas we were abused by our parents because they did not really know much better. And when we got to the point where we understood and knew better, we made changes. Now, unfortunately, more parents are letting kids just do whatever they want to do.
Absolutely. I hear
I agree.
parents say they're afraid. How are you afraid of a 5-year-old child or a 6-year-old child? Are you serious?
They'll
Because
call
I'll tell you
diapers
what,
on you.
Bev, because
I
most parents cannot afford to take care of the children they have. So what
911.
happens is they are
Mhm.
dependent on a government. And anybody that provides you with
control
food, water, and shelter, they controls you,
control you.
including your, even whether it is a man you're married to or a woman that you're married to, that controls the person, that feels that they're the boss of you. They control you, they control the narrative. And the problem is our people, and I'm not saying entirely, but some of our people, they're having children they cannot afford to raise, and they're allowing the government systems to tell them how to parent their children. And
Mhm.
that is a problem. And
Yeah.
so I
Right.
remember when Alex was about 7, his teacher told him, with her white self from Long Island, told my son that anytime we discipline him, he needs to call the police. So I
911.
had to stop the car on Remsen Avenue and Avenue M and explain to that Negro boy that is beautifully my son. Let me explain something to you. No system is going to tell me how to raise my children because I am not dependent on the system. So unless you're feeding me and clothing me, you don't get to tell me what to do. So if we want to raise our children the way we want to raise our children, stop depending on other people to take care of the children that we chose to give a woman or that she chose to have.
Well, the thing is, with my experience, when I remember when I took my kids to daycare, the first thing they said to me is, if your kid come in and they have a scratch, we're going to call diapers. Poor me didn't know nothing about diapers. Okay. So I went and I was telling somebody, I'm having the conversation. It's like, and they realized that I didn't know what the hell diapers was. When they told me what diapers was, and I went back the next day and let them have it. Like, who the hell do you think you are? I am going to discipline my kid. The lady's looking at me like I was crazy. They ain't gonna tell me what you gonna call diapers. Suppose my kid fell and hurt themselves. You gonna call diapers?
Yes.
Mm.
And unfortunately, if that kid is wise enough, or for lack of a better term, wants to be destructive, they would say, yes, my parent hit me, or my parent pushed me. Next thing you know,
No,
guess what? The diapers is coming to remove that child out of their home because they think that they can get a better deal living in another place.
Damn.
And the
not
diapers or the people are simply believing what the child is saying rather than doing a proper investigation and understanding what's going on.
no. Let me tell you what they do. They question your child in a way that they confuse your child. So your child is going to, in other words, they indirectly making the kids say things that are not true.
Hmm.
But you know, my son, let me tell you, my son was 16 years old, called DIFUS, told DIFUS that I want you to take me out of this house because my mother is not giving me what I want.
Hmm.
So the lady came, the lady called me the night before. So I said, I was going to the college with my grandchildren and I invited him to come and he refused, but I said, he's home and you can, I give you permission to take him out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
She said, no, I can't do that. She said, I'll come the next day. So when she came, she spoke with him and I was on my porch and she was leaving. So I looked and I said, when she walked out the door, I said, wait a minute, you forgot something.
Right.
I said, you forgot my son. She started laughing. She says, oh, no, I talked to him because I gave him two choices. He can go in a shelter or a group home.
Right?
So he said to me, oh, I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay. I said, okay. I said, that's a good thing.
Mm.
Well, I've heard that some parents will say, you know what? You're gonna call DIFUS. I'm gonna take you back to the island and take care of you. Then you can come back and call DIFUS.
You know what? It's funny when my kids was young, I had a friend, she was Jamaican. And let me tell you, everything them kids do, she kept writing it down and checking it. You see, when June come, the last day of school, back. Let me see.
Right?
After 2 years, the kids was as straight as an arrow. They wonder what happened to them
Right?
kids.
Because back when you can't call them DIFUS,
You have nobody to call.
but
Mm.
And
nobody to call, just like take the blame.
my other friend that's a doctor. Her son used to give her so much trouble. She told him, okay, we're going back to Africa on a
Good trip.
vacation.
Hmm.
She left him there, take the passport and everything, and came back to America and left him there. She said, you'll never come to America and disgrace me.
Right? There's
But
ways
you
to get
know what?
around
It's
things.
funny. In as much as we like traditions and we change traditions, I think someone said we still sometimes got to go back to the past
Yes.
Of
because,
course.
Agreed.
huh?
Of course.
Agreed.
Because those are things like, and especially youths now, because a lot of our young people don't have a past. They don't
Mhm.
have an older person. I remember as a young woman, I used to, my neighbor, before we sold the house, she was 94 years old. Every morning she'd sit on her porch. And when I'm off, I used to sit on the porch, sit on the steps and listen to her
Hmm.
and listen to some of the things because it gives you some past experiences that you can either build on
Yes.
or change.
Correct. And then you learn a lot from, like you said, elderly people because they have so much wisdom. And even with us, because when I was younger, my father used to sit and used to always tell us stories, and we were just so disgusted, we don't even want to hear it. And even with my daughter, now she's saying that, oh, Eric was younger, so he didn't remember the stories. But she's like, oh, I remember the stories. And now she's telling her children, and the things that he said we had to do, that now they're so fortunate they don't have to do these things.
Mhm.
So all of that, is something that they have to compare to,
Hmm.
not their life, but our life, how we were versus how they are today.
I
No.
think Bev, and for our guests, I think one of the problems is that parents are not truthful.
Yes.
Let's be honest here. We were not truthful. Our parents were not truthful. We do not tell our children the truth.
Oh, I
And
do.
when the kids grow up, things you think you hid from a child, they know. They sense it, they feel it, sometimes they hear it, sometimes they taste it. And
Hmm.
a lot of lies or hidden truths. People think if they don't tell you something that they're not lying to you. It's called a lie by omission.
Mhm.
And that is the problem. And we're blaming the young people. I always tell my friend when she thought about her daughter, I'm blaming her daughter, blaming her daughter. I said, but who raised her?
Hmm.
Yes.
Who raised them? We keep talking about like there's some entity that fell out of the sky. We raised them. We did this to them. So the question now is how do we fix it?
Well, we have to know the truth for ourselves
Correct.
because when my children were growing up, even my grandchildren, my daughter brought her daughter here. She's telling her, "Oh, let's wash your pocketbook. Yes, it is a vagina. That's what it is." Call it what it is, so you know what it is. You're not embarrassed about it. This is your body. Tell her the truth about herself. That way you don't have to change what it is. Because when you change what it is, they're gonna want to know, how come you telling them this when they were from a baby to 5 and 6 years old? Then when they go to school now, they start learning about vagina, or they
Mhm,
start learning about the penis, or they start learning about children. You have to
mhm.
assess their children level of maturity and teach them the truth about yourself. But you got to know the truth about yourself.
No, this
Well,
makes sense.
Because unless you,
this generation is different. Because for us, how many names did the vagina call? We knew everything except vagina, right? There's
well,
like
I
Mm,
only
50
know
different
this
names. You
vagina.
this, you that, you this. No, I'm saying growing up, listening to my grandparents and them, like it was all different names. But I think today, our kids are more educated. So, and too many other things are going on surrounding our children that we have to be mindful of. So we cannot use those slangs anymore. We have to give them correct information.
Right.
Correct, the truth. Like even Bev, you know, sometimes I'm embarrassed to say I had to call Bev like 6 years ago and talk about sex. It was such an embarrassment for me in my late 40s to be talking about sex with Bev. And I'm like, Bev, nobody taught me that it's okay to be sexy, that it's okay to be sexual. Like, Jesus Christ, how we expect our girls to keep their marriages if our girls don't know that it's okay to be sexy. White women are sexy, Spanish women are sexy,
Ah,
Japanese women are sexy, but we teach our girls, close your legs, don't put on that short skirt, stop it. And then what we've created is a bunch of women who are prudes, right? So they don't know how to enjoy their sexuality. They think sex is something that they should be ashamed of. And correct me when I'm wrong. That we have not been taught the truth, right? That it is okay, girl, you go with your sexy self. And that if you with your husband or if you're with your man, it's okay to be sexy, right? That is not something we were taught. Black women are
No,
told to control yourself, cover yourself. And what are we teaching our women? So for me, I didn't do that. I'm sorry. I spoke about everything. But as I always tell my children, do it with respect. Don't cross the boundaries of disrespect. Well, we're going to
and
talk
right.
about everything.
and
But
that's
it
why
goes
that
back to sorry, Mr. Husband. It goes back to lack of knowing. You cannot teach what you don't know. You
Yes.
know, like even with me, before I became a sexologist, a lot of things I didn't know. And I think for us, we reading stuff, but we are too embarrassed to ask because we're at that age, we already have children, you're married, you experience certain thing, whether you knew what the experience was or not. But the thing is, you're too embarrassed. Hey, or you're 50 years old, you're asking somebody how is that feel or what is this supposed to you're so you just go along and you act like you know.
But
Yeah.
be real, Beverly. I don't know, when I was growing up, you would eavesdrop on the women having their grown up conversations.
Me and nobody airdrop
And
on.
some of the grown up conversations is like, they have to be still, they have to submit themselves, they have to allow the man to do this and allow the man to do that. Because, like you said, we weren't taught as women to express our own ourselves and our sexuality. As a young woman, I sort of like, when I was married, I was always introduced, and most men do introduce their wives as, this is the mistress. Yes, this is my wife, but this is my wife, Yvette. You kind of lose your name to a title. Mistress, you're
Correct.
not Yvette. You're like behind everything. You're like the hidden figure. in everything. You were taught to be hidden. You were taught to be submitted. You were taught to take abuse. You were taught to take certain things. But like you said, change in tradition. I grew up in an abusive home. I saw my father drinking, smoking, beating my mother. One thing I remember saying at 8, I will never stay with a man that put his hand on me. I've learned to fight because I grew up with the boys. And the first time at the age of 23, when my ex-husband put his hand on me, he swung with a right. And believe you me, I came back with a left.
All right.
And he realized, he said, I am sorry. I will not put my hand on you again. Because that was my plan to myself. I will not take the abuse.
Right.
I will not be a housewife. My mother had 6 children by age 32.
Wow.
I was not the one to have 6 children, but I planned that I was going to have sex and I was going to have a good time having it too.
Hmm.
And that's how I ended up with my second son, because I was having a good time.
As you should. As you should, like even for Black women, like we tell our girls, like, oh, you gotta give him when he wants it. And men would ask, can I have some of that? What do you mean, can you have some of that? Have some of what?
Oh, no, but it had to be,
No,
are we gonna have sex or you gonna make love to me? Because you're having some of nothing.
or no, or let me hit that thing.
No, I'll give you something to hit. Or I'll hit you,
and then we
or
were
I'll
taught,
hit you with something.
if you don't keep him happy, he's going to leave. But what about teaching our men, if you don't keep her happy, she is going to leave, right? We're always supposed to worry about if he is not happy, right?
Amen.
But
Well,
what
you know,
about,
back then she wasn't leaving, so that's why they were able to prolong that long,
Yeah.
right? Look at then and now, women ain't staying.
Unfortunately and sadly, a lot of what you're saying is true. My comment in reference to what you said earlier regarding women being told not to be sexual. When I look at that, I look at that from the perspective of conservatism and not putting yourself out to be vulgar or to be loose to the general public.
but
Not
what does that
specifically,
look like, Mr. Husbands? Let's keep it real. Most of these women were having 5, 6, 7, 8, 9
one,
children,
sorry,
and yet they're talking about
sorry.
conservatism, and they were having these children out of wedlock, and yet they're talking about conservatism. Do you see the hypocrisy here?
No, I understand
But
that. What I'm
those were the
saying,
times when they were saying that women, their place was in the home and their place was in the kitchen.
okay,
And
I'm sorry. My apologies. What I'm getting at is my perspective was that these statements were being said from my perspective, to have people not acting as if, young ladies acting as if they were vulgar and loose. That's what I thought when those statements were being made when I was growing up. And the reason for this was when I used to what we call hang out in the gap playing dominoes with the guys, I would be watching how they treated females, their girlfriends, their close friends. You will hear comments like, "Oh, you know what I did to my girlfriend last night?" And to me, that was disrespectful, because if that's the person that you're supposed to have a relationship, how
Got
could
mad, he
you
ran upstairs.
right and telling people, this is what I did to her last night. That's my woman. This is why, to me, that was disrespectful. But then I was a person, for whatever reason, at that age, was respectful of females and understood that there is a point of reference, and there's certain things that you do not do with among your friends or about against some person you care about. Because think about somebody's mother, somebody's sister. If that was your relative, you would not like some person to be speaking about them like that. But for me, as I said, what I looked at when those things were being said, it was for them not to be seen as loose and vulgar and showing too much to get the wrong type of attraction or the incorrect attention being focused on them. That's what I saw. Not to stop people from being sexual, because I did not know it to that extent, but I just saw it as trying to maintain some sort of decorum for females to not be seen as loose and foot free and stuff like that. So that's what I
Yeah,
took.
but yet, Mr. Husbands, yet
Mhm.
women were part of the transition is that we must keep our modesty, that we must be conservative in how we operate sexually. Yet, when after a while, men are into those same things that we're taught not to do. And that's why us Black women sometimes cannot keep our men because we are not by nature sexual or we've been trained to suppress that natural part of us, right?
I hear
So
what you I
that
hear, I
and,
hear what
and
you're
yet the men
saying.
will still go for those so-called
Yes,
loose women, correct?
yes, that is
So
that
do
is
you
true.
see the hypocrisy here?
Right. That's what that, and I agree with that. I totally agree with what you're saying. And I observed that and saw that because obviously, as I grew up, it was what type of person would you want? And most of the time, it would be you want a person you experience your fun with some person who's loose, but you wouldn't bring them home or marry them.
Correct.
Mm,
That's what I was about to say. There's this, as they would put it, there's if you can't take her home to mommy, then she can't be the wife. But
Right,
also they want to experiment with the so-called one that they call the sluts, right?
right,
Because the other
absolutely.
thing is all the guys have already spoken about her. So
Mm-hmm,
now everybody wants to get a piece, but this is not going to be wife material.
mm,
absolutely. And it perturbed me, like I said before, when men were doing that to females, even though I was probably over 15 or 16. It bothered me that men were talking about females like that. So
mm,
for me, that did not sit right either. So
Correct.
I understand what you're saying because that is what actually happened. But from my perspective, I looked at it a little bit differently because I always guess look at things from a little bit more conservative side when it came to that. Whereas, yes, you can have some person who, as they say, is a lady with you on the street, but when you're home in bed, it's a whole different ball again. Because
But
what
Mm.
how do we teach our women that? Because that's not what we were taught. Sorry.
understood,
But
understood,
now that we've grown from then to now, we are able to do it. Back
Facts, no
then, those are
caps.
conversation we didn't have. Who
right.
could have asked their parents anything about sex back in the days, or relationship, or man for that matter? Why you want to know that for you this? Then they give you all kind of labels.
Yeah.
Now it's different times.
Yep, that is true. And so a
So
lot of
that's,
things,
sorry.
that's okay. A lot of things, a lot of dynamics go on with these situations. And so unfortunately, we tend not to be able to speak too generally or specifically because there are always exceptions to situations. I prefer for myself the relationship that I'm having with a young lady. What goes on behind closed door is our business. As long as we are respectful, and this is what we want to do. What we do outside is try to maintain our dignity and respectability as much as possible. Nobody has to know what goes on as long as it is agreeable between the two of us.
Correct.
mm.
And if
And
you are,
that's a nice sentiment. The question is, does a lot of our women know it? That it's okay to be girl, it's okay to put on that nice tight jeans. It's okay to, even if you wear a long skirt like me, that's a little bit more apparently conservative, but when you're home, you can handle your business,
Yeah,
and
you could
that
just
it's okay. It's
absolutely. You can hack at that long skirt and do your
but
thing.
how do we teach our girls that, right? How do we teach our girls that? And how do we teach women that it's okay to even enjoy having an orgasm? It's not a
Oh,
crime.
right, I would hope
Well, you know
so.
what? Well, you know what the thing is now, because even when I say something or post something on Facebook, and I have to say, mostly our Caribbean women, they be telling me I need Jesus, and that's like you need
Why
to
you
keep your
need
husband or your
Jesus?
man.
Wow.
What? But that's again, I say it's this fake, is this fake religious way, right? Because
Hmm.
you're out there, you're not married, you're having 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 children, you're claiming Christianity, you're claiming that you're so conservative in your viewpoint. Do you see the hypocrisy?
Hmm.
Well, we know that. It's same thing like the church. Look at the people that, like they said, they party all night, right? And when
Hmm.
I was younger, I used to do it because you know what? My mama made us go to church. So my mother used to say, no matter what time you come in the house, you go to church.
Hmm.
So sometimes 6 o'clock we come in the house. We're so tired, I want to sleep. Guess what? 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, we going to church.
Hmm.
So in our mind was that hypocrisy that no,
Yes,
made to no, we were made to do. We had no choice.
yes, yeah, it's
We
true.
had to.
It's true. And all of these people with their shake, with their, I call it their fake chivalry. Your chivalry is fake, because here is the thing. You did not have 5, 6, 7, 8 children not screwing.
But the thing is though, guess what? The single people are doing it, but then they walk in the church and they act holy, right? The married people, the preacher are having affairs, right? But they're preaching to you.
Yes.
Don't
Yes,
do this,
ma'am.
don't do that. My thing is, the church also need to change the way it operates. Okay, especially I would say for the Catholic Church, all of them, but mainly
All of
I
them.
think all of them. If you teach, you're supposed to be teaching. Teach correctness. They pick what they want in the Bible to deliver,
Yes.
and right.
That is
Teach
true.
the women how to keep your man. Teach the woman how to do this. Teach the men how to please their woman, and I don't mean sexually. The things that you need to do, and sexually too, because that's why a lot of divorce happens, and that's
Right.
So you have to do it both ways. But instead, the church teach you all this little craziness. Then they give you counseling. What do they
Fake,
teach you at
fake
counseling?
chivalry. And even, Bev, even if I used to feel very guilty, I was one of those women. Why am I having sex with you and I cannot have an orgasm? And when I talk to women my age, they're like, what is that? And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
All right, this is too young for you. Well, I guess it's a hard thing. My tendency is to have the conversation should be between those two adults for the most part. And
You
as
know
you
what?
said,
No,
Mr.
not
Husband,
between the two of us.
Mr. Husbands, I totally disagree with you. You know why I say that? And this is all of this is out of tradition. Okay, actually, you know what? I think I'm gonna stop sharing.
Yes, please.
Yeah, let me. Okay, so this is the end. We're just gonna do conversation without live. Let me close this live out here. This end the segment of the live. All right.
No,
mhm.
baby, it's
Now
still recording. Look
it's
on your
recording.
left.
That's fine for the recording because I can edit that. I just don't want it live on Facebook. You know me and you
Okay,
and
got
shit
you.
house on Facebook, girl.
Yes.
They'll shut me and Carmen
Yes, they will.
Ah,
down.
Right? But I know women my age who has never had an orgasm? And women
Yes.
need to talk about these
Okay.
things. What
So,
does
right,
that
Carmen,
mean? Keep it only in your bedroom. What does that
right.
mean?
No,
Explain.
right. And that is why I disagree with Mr. Husband. Because if we keep it between me and him, guess what? Me and him doing the same old thing. He ain't got nothing to teach me, and I ain't got nothing to teach him. If I
No.
sit and we have conversation with our girlfriends, our friends, or even with our male friends, right? Then we have a different perspective. We could ask questions. So now we can go back and say, you know what? She said that. Or I know a lot of men are not comfortable with their women having male friends, but I love male friends. And some saying you can't have male friends that you have not been intimate with. That's BS. Okay? Right?
Mm.
Right, Michael Royster? How long we been friends?
Yeah,
Well,
correct.
And,
Yeah.
and
Beverly,
yes.
what I started to say was the conversation between those two people. It is,
Mhm.
this is what I want from our relationship. This is what I'm comfortable with. This is what I'm not happy with. This is what I like. That
But
is a conversation that
Okay.
I'm referring to
Mr.
say,
Husbands, most
Hold on,
women will
hold on,
not
hold
tell you, Mr. Husbands.
on.
I'm going to
No,
be
no, no, no.
honest.
No, no,
I
no. Carmen,
understand
hold
that.
on.
I
Mr.
understand that.
Husbands. No, no,
Yeah.
no. If I haven't experienced something, how do I know what to tell you what I want? You
But
understand what
what
I'm saying?
okay, I understand that. But hear me out, please. What I'm saying is you and I are in a relationship. You know you have experience, whatever experience you have, little, lot, none. We are in a relationship. We if we teach people or get people to understand your relationship can and will evolve. The more you communicate with each other regarding what your needs are, the better understanding of satisfaction that both of you will can accomplish in that relationship. It
But
doesn't end.
sometimes they don't know, Mr.
But
Husbands.
even that's what I'm saying. If you have little experience or no experience, that means you have the opportunity to have a conversation with some person else to gain more knowledge about what you need to find out. But the conversation between you and your mate needs to be taking place no matter what knowledge you have, because the only way you're going to understand what some person wants or needs out of that relationship is to have a conversation. You can go out and learn and be taught anything, but if you don't communicate that with your mate, how are you both going to get satisfied out of that?
Well, right now I could understand what you're saying because before it was a kind of I'm thinking that you were saying that conversation just needs to stay there, but we have to brighten our horizon. Whether you watch porn together and see what somebody else is doing, or just learning from somebody else. So then, right? So now I've learned something. For example, when I used to do the parties, right, and the group was there, and some of the men, especially because a woman would want to say, oh, wow, she talked about that, or, I want to try this. But the men used to have issues. Who you been with that you want to try this? Where you did, who you see doing this?
Because he know where he been trying it.
Right? So the thing is,
Yeah.
so you're right. So when we see this and we have that conversation, now I can go to my mate and say, you know what? We never did this, but I heard this, or I watched this and I saw this. I'd like to try it, experience it, or whatever have you, you know? So yeah, so what you're saying now I can get it from that perspective.
Yeah, that's right. Because the only way that you guys are
I need
gonna
some
make
I need wine for real this time. Holy cold.
it.
No, but Mr. Husband, let me explain
Yeah,
something to you.
sure.
Growing up, I am almost 60 years old. Growing
Congratulations.
up, growing up, women, Black women that were in my neck of the woods in Grenada, we were not taught by our elders about, we were taught that sex is
Yes, it's
our
dirty.
duty. You
It's dirty and
giving
heavy
it to
duty.
him. It
Right.
is your duty to provide it with him. It was not an exchange of an emotion,
Right.
but it was a duty to perform. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I
Yeah, but
understand
is
that.
it two D's? Is either it was dirty or a duty?
Right. Right. And so I understand that because I've seen it, I've heard it, I've experienced it. What I guess my perspective has always been, you have a right to say no, you have a right to say yes. If I say to you,
And you have a right, it has to be good. It must
yes,
be good.
absolutely. That's why you have a
Okay.
right to say,
Okay.
that's why
All right.
you have a right to say yes, and you have a right to say no. Because guess what, hun? It's not anything that's pleasing me.
Right. And if she says yes, the question is not only the yes, Mr. Husbands, but the
Yes,
how.
yes,
No, it's a how. How are you
yes,
going to do it in such a way that she feels she is contributing, not just a tool, not just this glass
absolutely.
you pick
A
up and use
receptacle.
and put
Right.
the juice in and you're done.
That's correct. And it's a two-way street. It's not wham bam, thank you, ma'am, get off of me. I'm good. Later for you. No, it is, are you satisfied? Did you have an orgasm? Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Was that good for you? Did you enjoy that? It is, hun, when you come home, I'll be upstairs ready for you. Or, hun, I come home with flowers. I come home with something to say, hey, what are you doing this evening? Where would you like to go? Come home, say, okay, hon, you're tired. Guess what? Go upstairs and relax. I'll take care of the dishes. I'll clean the house. Then you come upstairs. You'll say, would you like a back rub? Okay.
Baby sleep by the time you come
I told
upstairs.
him a couple of weeks ago he needs to be cloned.
Listen, what's up? What's up with all you quiet folks on there? You know, we're no longer live. Y'all could
Now, you know what?
show
I want
yourself.
to
Come
say
on.
that, and off of tradition, one thing that we don't know. So I said I come from a broken home. So it's three of us, me and my brother. So we had these conversations. The thing is we didn't know how to romance, or how do we be a gentleman? How do we learn how to please a woman when we didn't have a good example as time went on from in home, which my father. Then I have a weird uncle. I got a pervert uncle. I got some think they got it going on male cousins. And I'm not just putting the blame on that because I learned how to do that, even though I got divorced. But I think we as males need to learn, like, what is it to please a woman? And when we think we doing the right thing, well, we might get turned, you're too soft, you're too nice,
Right.
you don't know how to do
Absolutely.
this.
Right.
Well, why
But I
don't you
guess,
do that? Then now it's like, oh gosh, you're doing too much. So how do we
Really?
know leading up
Really,
to it,
Mike?
even to be romantic?
You gotta be
Is that
you have to
true,
learn to be
Mike?
versatile.
I agree.
Mike, is
That's what I'm
that
saying. I
true?
learned to be versatile.
yes,
Gotta
yes,
learn to be versatile.
You know what I think, Mr. Husbands, and correct me, right?
yes.
So I think, from my experience, I think men wants the goody woman at home to be the mother of their children, to raise their families, to protect the family's income. But when it comes to romance, when it comes to sexiness, they don't see that in the same woman that they want to raise their children, protect their homes. They don't feel that they can get all of this in one packet, right? So they get that at home, and then they have their wild, kinky sex out there.
Well, for me, I want mine at home.
Have you had it?
I didn't have it because my ex-wife was, when we were married, was always traveling. My issue was, you can leave home on a Sunday, come back on a Saturday morning. You want to go stay in bed the whole day. You want to get up on Sunday, you want to cook, do whatever, get on a plane on Sunday night, and I don't see you for another week. And when I want to spend time with you, it is, oh, I'm tired. I got to get ready early in the morning. I just did my hair. So after a while, it's like, you know what? I'm pursuing you no more. But
So
I,
did you try making sure that the house was clean, the bed
hey,
is made
yes,
up, the flowers is on the bed?
no, I didn't do the flowers on the bed. I
Well, you did.
vacuumed. I did not do the flowers on the bed. I vacuumed. I washed. I did the laundry. The only thing I did not do was
Oh,
cook.
time for him to be cloned.
And so I said it, we gotta clone this brother. We want our Black women to have good people in their lives. So come on.
And
Come on, Fauci, we need cloning here.
what I've gotten throughout my life is, oh, you're too nice, you're too soft,
Here you go.
you're too good.
Yeah.
Even at 15,
Mike,
16
you get
years,
that too?
You know, you know, and you be the bad boy. It's kind of hard, and I don't want to say modern women because you're not modern women. It's, again, you say versatile, but we need to be a little mysterious. We need to be about our business, but you work too much. Now that's something, Mr. Husband, as you're saying, that she worked a lot, because sometimes we get, as males, we work too much, and then we
Correct.
ain't taking care of business at home.
Correct. But here's the thing. The question is, why does women have to work so hard?
well, that in this case, that was a choice that was made, which I didn't have a problem with, because I did not mind supporting her. That was your job. When I met you, that's what you were doing. So you took care of your job. You did what you had to do. I knew that it was not a problem for me to be cleaning, helping raise our son, and taking care of those responsibilities, because I looked at myself as a person, said that's a choice that you're allowed to make, and I know you. I met you this way. Why should I ask you to change? I didn't ask you to stay home and say you can't travel now because we're married. You have to change your job, get a new job, because guess what? I'm the man of the house. That is what you were doing. That is what you're good at. Not a problem. I'm trying to start a business. I'm trying to do things that I want to do. You allow me the flexibility to do that, and I allow you the flexibility to have the life that you were having all this time. So I'm not going to fight with you over that or have you change that. What I wanted to know was, guess what? There were times when I wanted to see you, spend time with you, have the sexual interaction, and you're making it difficult. But then as life progresses, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it, when it came to something that you wanted to do, like saying it was Christmas time, you want to go caroling with the neighbors, you would come home on a Friday instead of Saturday morning. Because guess what? Friday night was caroling night.
So that was what was important to her.
Right. But spending time with me for us to enhance our marriage was not that important from my perspective.
Yeah.
Because I cannot see you when you come home because you're tired. I cannot see you before you leave because you gotta go to catch a flight and you went to the hairdresser yesterday, so I can't mess up your hair.
That's what happened to our sisters. They don't want that hair mess up. But then guess what? Guess what, Mr. Husbands? But then if you guys got a natural sister, you don't want her either.
What natural sister? You're not talking about me.
Oh, you can mess my hair up anytime.
Unfortunately, I can't get my hands through the phone. But that was a personal attribute for her. Not everybody's like that.
Right.
Like when I tell my female friends, right, that there is no way I'm allowing anybody to climb up on top of me and acting like if that's my duty. That's not my duty.
No, that's disrespectful.
Yes,
Of course.
it's not happening.
Mhm.
It's not my job to do that. It's our job to connect.
Yes.
Yeah.
He can get
Right.
a blood
Yeah.
doll for that.
Hey.
Thank you. Or one of Beverly's plastique.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so let me just read to you guys. A couple, age 67, went to the doctor's office. The doctor asked, "What can I do for you?" The man said, "Will you watch us have sexual intercourse?" The doctor looked puzzled but agreed. When the couple had finished, the doctor said, "There's nothing wrong with the way you are having intercourse," and charged them $10. This happened over several weeks in a row.
Mm.
Couple would make an appointment, have intercourse, pay the doctor, and leave. Finally, the doctor asked, "Just exactly what are you trying to find out?" The old man said, "We're not trying to find out anything. She's married and we can't go to her house. I'm married. You can't go to my house." The Holiday Inn charged $22. The Hilton charges $27. And we
Superhero.
do it here for $10, and I get $8 back from my Medicare for visiting the doctor.
Ah, wow.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay.
Mm, that is funny.
All right.
He
Thought
was
I'd
paying
share that.
for a free show.
No.
Mm.
No, no, no,
No,
no.
you only
It's-
paying $2 because if you get a
Right,
refund from Medicare for $8,
right. So he was cheating, and he was getting the room for $2.
$2,
He'll get a free entertainment.
both of them.
I'm surprised that it's even working at 87 or 77.
Why?
He
Why?
said you're
Just
67.
asking.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Why?
It's all a mindset.
Why, Carmen?
Hey, you forget there's Viagra. There's a pump.
Hey, we talking about the natural,
Mm.
taking care of
Yeah.
self.
Some of them ain't got no natural.
Don't forget all medications have side effects, you know.
Absolutely. So,
Correct.
Carmen,
And if you
Carmen,
continue to use that, that's what happens.
Get a
Mhm.
heart
understood.
attack.
Yay.
Carmen, Carmen.
Yes, sir.
So, when do you feel that you should stop, or you should
Me?
be active? Yes.
What? Listen, till the day I die.
So why do we have to stop at 67, or why do we have to stop at 77?
You know the
Because-
marriage vow said, "Till death do us part."
Because I'll tell you why. Because it appears from overuse, like everything else, from overuse, there's an expiration date.
You can say, I hope that that person does not overuse it, but they keep going until whatever. But don't
Right.
say,
But
you
for
know,
me, there's no expiration date. You can ask Beverly and all the other women here. There ain't no expiration date on this.
You go, girl.
well, I'm gonna try to make sure there's no expiration date on mine either.
Okay, the little engine, we got the little engine that keep going.
No,
Hey,
well, if you don't use it, you lose it.
That's the thing too.
That's not true in this case.
You
Yeah.
gotta use it.
No, that's not true in this case, because if you those
See, and that's a tradition where it seems as though when you get to around 65, 70, it seems that it may not be there from what we hear.
For
Well,
I was
some
about to
people,
ask you how you know, Mike. I was about to ask you how you know.
it's a functionality that decreases.
Mouth.
You don't
Yeah,
lose it.
not only that, some men shrink.
Too much.
Yeah, you got to stay active. Keep in shape.
No.
It's
And
shrinking. It's
overuse
just
too.
like as no, it's a natural occurrence because
natural
it's just
occurrence.
like some women, people in general, as you get older, sometimes you shrink. You know, you ever
Right.
see Years go by. Well, yeah, men shrink.
And women can constrict as well.
Can do
No,
what?
but you know,
Constrict.
Women
Beverly,
can do what?
some women have a
Constrict.
big mouth, you know.
Right.
But the thing is, women. Okay, so one of my
Women can
question
get dry.
was, we can fake though. We can fake. So that's the difference. You know.
But you cannot fake
No,
dryness.
you can't fake that.
Well, they
Nah,
got enough. Listen, we
don't
got
even
enough
go there about
cream,
the
Mister
dryness
Mister
because us
Husband. We got
don't
Mister
even
Husbands. We
go
got
there
enough
because
cream.
that's a myth.
If you
Mister
if
Husband, we got a lot of
if
creams and gels.
yes, yes,
Hello. And not
yes.
only that, we have so many fruits and vegetables that you could eat that could help with the moisture. That's you what?
And what I'm saying is if you're dry, you cannot fake it.
Then get yourself somebody with oil.
No, you can do no. Okay. What I'm talking about, natural stuff. If some person is
Okay,
dry
but
naturally, that is, you know, that there's nothing. They're not saying that there's no lubricants or that you cannot do those things to
right.
enhance. It's just that if you are at that stage of your life, you are dry. You can do things to
Well,
minimize it because it's painful for a woman to be in that situation when they're dry. There's no vaginal secretion, so
I'm
that
sorry
would
to
be
hear
that's
that.
well, but Mr. Husband, absolutely correct. But for a lot of women too, that also happens after childbirth, and with that is why a lot of women marriage end because the change in their body. A lot of women after childbirth, they don't want to be bothered. They cut off. They're done, and that's the change in the body. So that
understandable,
happens at for
right?
But
us.
guess
It
what, Mr.
doesn't.
Husband?
Hmm.
Right. So for us, it doesn't. We don't have to wait till we get 65 or
Right.
menopause. It could happen during
Anytime,
any time cycle.
which is quite true. And you were saying something, Miss Howard.
Yes. So what I was thinking is that first of all, I don't know what that looks like. I pity anybody that's experiencing that. I'm so sorry. Try okra. Try other forms of
Yes,
vegetables.
they, that's why KY gel probably can become in vogue to the extent
Cor-
it has.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
But the question is, Beth, some dryness, there's lubricants, right?
Yes.
But if it's not working, what's the remedy?
Oh, they're pumps. There are pumps that
Explain.
can enhance. Okay, I forgot the name of it, but there's a pump that the man can use. There's
And
some
there's also
that's it'll
But
batteries. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Some of it is not immediate, but
and
it
there's
does give. I'm sorry.
sorry, there's mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
for some
Hey,
men, for some people, some sexual dysfunction,
correct. It
um, some
depends.
sexual dysfunction is caused because of some medications that they're taking.
Correct.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. A lot of
Medications or
okay,
some medical illness
Right.
so
can
That is
right.
true.
cause
So some
sexual
men.
dysfunction in both men and
And
women.
women, right.
And
So with
So
also
men, a lot of
emotional, if there's
times.
an emotional trauma or something
sure, there's all
that
of that.
So a lot
occurs.
of times diabetics, for example, is one of the top on the top of the list that it causes a man to not function.
And that happens. So the question becomes, everything is not about I guess,
Physical,
intercourse, intercourse satisfaction, but gratification and satisfaction by being able to do other things in a loving way.
You gotta
Correct.
have that. That's
Salute.
where you have to learn intimacy
it
Right.
right.
without right. So
Correct.
that's where intimacy comes in.
But if for a lot of
Eric, you're
people,
good.
Eric is just look at you guys. Look at you all hags. Look at you all. Look at you all.
But you see,
Eric left the
sometimes
dinner
the
a long time
intimacy
ago.
comes with not, it doesn't have to be physical,
Right,
but
That's
from
intercourse.
physical
that's
touching
Yes.
that's what I'm
or in
saying.
a
That's what that.
conversation, having conversation, which go back to Mr. Husband's, where he's talking about having that both partners having conversations with each other.
Right.
Yes.
and
but
understanding each
really,
other, because in a
but the real,
relationship, not necessarily a marriage, because most people have a relationship. It might be sexual, it might
Mm-hmm.
be physical, it might be an emotional relationship where one person is dependent on the other person emotionally, but not necessarily, like you said, physically, where it has
Mm-hmm.
to be, or sexually. But
well, take for
when
example,
in terms
people.
of a relationship, depending on the type of relationship that you're having with that person.
Well, take for example, people who are handicapped and have physical disabilities, where they
Right.
can't perform sexually. You have the touching,
Mm-hmm.
which is a big part of it. You have other way of stimulating
Absolutely.
without, the penetration or anything.
Right.
Right. But I think sometimes the problem is we get, because of how some of us were raised and our age,
Mhm.
we think only having sex is romance, right?
Because they
Mhm.
have not been taught.
Correct.
Okay,
Mhm.
when I was doing parties, I hear women say men never open the car door for them. They never pull out the chair. They never got flowers. Then all these things. Who taught them? That's why it is so important.
But they watch all this movie in the god and TV shows. Hello, get a
Right.
goddamn clue.
But
Right.
but
Absolutely.
but but
I agree with you,
Carmen,
Carmen.
some of them, and Mister, some of them
Sure.
want that man so bad that they take him anyhow. He
Which is a
doesn't even have
mistake.
to be respectful to them.
Which is a mistake. And
Correct.
that is a bad place
No,
to
but it
be.
might be a mistake, but for some people that's acceptable, because
Correct.
everybody dance to the beat of a
Eh,
different drum.
which is correct. And I agree with that. However, if you're talking about having a better relationship, have a better communication, there's a process where you have to evolve, where you learn and realize that you have to be willing to understand that you deserve
Thank
or
you.
want better.
Right.
If you don't have that impression about yourself,
Mhm.
you will not get better. A lot of times I hear, and it bothers me when people look at somebody who's gone through a bad situation and say, "You're beautiful, you deserve better." My question always
Right.
comes back to, does that person want better?
You hit
Until
Well,
it
that
right on
person,
the head. You hit the nail
not
right on
on
the
not
Yeah.
only that, does your look determine how you feel about yourself? Because you're pretty does not mean you
No.
have high self-esteem.
But
It
pretty
comes
by
from
whose
within, no matter
standard?
how you look.
All right, you
Right.
guys.
Correct.
I'm going.
Bye,
Bye,
Eric.
Eric.
have a good
Yeah.
night,
Enough.
guys.
You had enough.
He had enough. But pretty by whose standard, right? And I think if we start teaching our young people that, and that's what I remember my son when he was 14 years old, he went to a neighbor's house during the day, and this man is a preacher, and he had the porn. And my son was always able to tell me anything. And my son came home and he said, "Mommy, I saw at his house, I won't call any names. I saw at his house videos. His son showed me, he had those blue movie videos." And I said to my son, "Well, I'm glad you got that out, because all of us at one point, we're going to watch this. We're going to watch these porn.
Mhm.
But I want you to understand something. You see what was happening in that video? That is not lovemaking. They are being paid to do this. And you see all this oohing and eyeing? That's fake. That's called showtime.
Mhm.
Not what lovemaking is. And
Right.
I don't want you to watch that again, for the simple reason, don't look at that and think that that's lovemaking. You banging, 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 banging a woman.
No.
That's not lovemaking.
No.
Correct.
That's a physical act.
Mhm. That's correct. And for the women with the expectation of those guys who bang and do look like that.
Well, honestly, I've from one experience that I've had, there's a time when that seems to be okay, after you've
Correct.
after you've been able to demonstrate that yes, we do love making, but there may be a time when you just want to do the physical
Yeah.
act.
Right.
Beverly, I
But
You
power
know what? I
together.
believe
that's
there's a
right.
time for
Right.
sex and there's a time
Right.
for lovemaking.
Yes.
And
It's a
this, you
time,
know,
it's a
right.
difference. And
Right.
it's a
Because
Yes.
there's
time
this
where we just
stage.
would do it.
Yes.
You know,
Right.
it's
There's
always
three
that
different
time and it's a
stages.
difference.
Yes. There's a difference. And that comes about to some degree with an understanding is yes, it does not change our relationship. It does not change my love for you. It doesn't change my interaction with you. It's just this is one of those times where we just decide, you know what? Let's be a little bit animalistic and you enjoy it and I enjoy it.
Correct, but it's not
Exactly.
going to be the norm.
No, it's not the norm. It's just a one-off where it was one of those times where this was one of those times where you had that desire and you just went at it.
Okay. So we're just gonna play a fun game. Everybody disappeared. They couldn't take us anymore.
Well,
Yeah.
They're like,
it's the uncomfortable topic that
yeah, but they couldn't.
we haven't accepted within ourselves because everybody idea, like you said, is different.
Yes.
Correct,
And
correct.
it's an intense topic, but it's something that people need to explore more.
And
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah. So absolutely true.
I
So
agree 100%. And
okay,
that's
so
a topic, if our Black women, our children, our younger girls, and our sons and daughter, nephews and so have to be in healthy relationships, they need to be able to have these conversations freely and respectfully.
correct, correct, correct,
And
correct.
when you're having it with them, they know when you're uncomfortable talking about it too.
of course.
And they
Right,
know when
right.
you don't want to discuss. Huh?
Because it could be a chore. Like sometimes you had the conversation, oh, what a chore, to do that. And you're telling them because you just want to feed them and not coming from a place of comfort, or the message is, okay, don't do this XYZ, this is that, and not giving you really descriptive detail as to the experience or non-experience. That's why I said for a lot of women, I just feel that our first sexual experience is a form of rape because we didn't know what to expect. We just did something because some little boy liked us and he wanted to grab on us and he's like,
Correct.
okay, come on, let me do this, let me do that. What the hell we know then? You
I've
know?
learned a lot
Yes,
there's a lot that I didn't know growing up
correct.
because
That's what
I
I'm saying.
practically had to raise myself and my children.
Cor-
But I've
Correct.
known enough to know what I feel comfortable with and what I
Mhm.
would like happen to my body.
Right.
Because this is my
Right.
body.
Absolutely.
And
Now that
who
we
I would
have
allow,
learned,
huh?
now that we have learned what I'm saying, prior to us learning and experiences, we did it because some little boy wanted us to.
Oh, not
Or
me, honey.
sometimes
Oh,
grown men that did not
correct,
introduce us to sex properly, but did it in an awful way and spoil it for us for the rest of our lives.
because that's what, especially with the older men, because they are experienced. That's what they used to do in anyhow, any form,
Yes. And
right? So they didn't have that tenderness.
right. And
But
if
Beverly, you remember when we were growing up, I remember hearing some women being told, use your money maker, because some women would use their body to get
yes,
into positions
yes,
that
Correct.
they normally wouldn't get into.
right.
Was that one of James Brown's song?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was, right?
Yes.
And then
Or
also we were
shake your
growing up
money
with
maker or
boys.
something like that.
Yeah, and then we were
Right.
growing up with boys when I remember, because I grew up with a lot of boys. And I learned a lot from the boys, where a lot of boys were told to
So they
sell their
see,
wild oats.
so they well out before
And
they get
they
married.
would gain experience. They were told that they can get experience by practicing on
The loose
the
ones.
young women, that will allow them to have
Mhm.
sex with them.
But you know what I
Correct.
asked? I asked a fella this when I was 17 years old. As I told you, I questioned everything and everyone. And I remember he's talking about sowing his wild oats. So I said, when you sow your wild oats here, there, everywhere, who do you want to end up with your wild oats? While you go and look for a tree that nobody has ever peed on, while you sowing your wild oats. Now, who are you leaving your wild oats behind for?
Mhm.
But Carmen, that comes from early childhood because with the father, the man in their life, what did they do? You tell your girl child, you better not do this, don't do this, don't do. But what happens with the boy? Oh, you give him a clap. Oh, did you get some or did you know what I'm saying? So that's
Yeah.
exactly how they continue their life cycle.
Correct, but who is he leaving his wild oats for?
Exactly. Who the person who taught him incorrectly.
Right, but what happened to all of these wild oats women that they use on the side?
They don't care.
But
Right.
you see, the wild
Those
oats,
were the
because a
fallen
man wouldn't
branches.
do to you, a man would only do, or a person,
What
let's say a
you
person,
allow them to do
not
to
just
you,
blame a man. A person will do to you what you allow them to do.
Right.
which
But
is
Because
but
I
which is
know
what I
growing
but
up,
in
do.
this
they used to say, monkey know what tree
But
to
I'm
climb
also
on.
asking what happened to those women?
they just either find somebody who could appreciate them or they end up with a scumbag just like the ones who left them.
Right.
Some of
Because
them do. Some of them did that I know
That's
of.
why I said some of them end
But
up
I
with people
know
who
I
knows how
was
to treat
not
them
one
and
of the
respect
wild
them.
oats, because I would fight them like a man. Because I know how to act like a lady, but I can fight like a man.
I hear you. I hear you. I've always brought up with the viewpoint of I will not fight a lady, but I will fight a woman.
Hmm.
I will fight. I learned to fight from the guys because they were my friends. I learned a
Mm,
lot from the guys.
Understand?
mm.
Understood.
Claudette, you quiet girl.
I'm listening, Beverly. Not learning, listening.
You're listening.
Yeah.
Hey, look, you better not be learning now.
No, I'm not learning, I'm listening.
I know,
Yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. That's why I say you better be listening and not learning.
Better
Well, I mean,
late than never, Bev.
better late than never. There's never too late.
No,
Amen.
Ah,
If you can have at least
listen.
one good day of your life, you can say amen to that.
I agree with you. If it's one day you can say that, if that's the best day of your life, hey, that's okay
Correct.
too.
Correct.
Okay too. But as I said before, for whatever reason, when I was in the Gap playing dominoes and listening to these guys talking about women like they were objects, it did not sit well with me.
But do you
And
realize that some of those men some of them grew up and never even had sex until they old? Because
well,
No,
it was
I
some
never
of
learned,
them did
like from
have
being
it.
with the guys, a
Unfortunately,
lot of
those
them,
type of men
because
did
the
not
thing is that
marry women.
when you were a young boy and you're in a group and the men are talking about sex, you had to talk about sex. Else
yes,
they're gonna label you, they're gonna call you an anti man
yeah.
or a woman.
Yes,
yes.
yes.
You had to say you have sex even though you never had sex with a woman.
Well, I
Correct.
understand
Because
that,
I
but
know those boys. I hang out with those boys.
I
I
can tell
listen to
you
a lot of them lie.
I can tell you this. I never had to brag, and I did not brag because I don't believe that made sense. Even at my age now, the first thing I would say to them is, Nanya,
Hey.
don't ask me about my sexual life because it's none of your business.
That's right.
I,
Because
I have
those
nothing to
men,
brag about.
I remember talking to one of the guys as a grown person after like 30 years. And he was like, girl, Yvette, I liked you. And you were so strict. And my mother always tell me, don't interfere with that girl because she's trying to make her life better. I said, well, you lucky you didn't try because you probably would have been hurt and didn't even know you get hurt physically.
Hurt your feelings now.
You know, one of the things sometimes I say is that I made a couple of mistakes in the sense that we let our people, they keep the girls hidden and protected, like how I was with 9 uncles and a grandfather who took the place of my father after my father abandoned my family. And I grew up very protected in that way, you know, a little bit. And sometimes I wonder why we teach our girls, don't be out there with 2 and 3 different men, but it's okay for men to do it.
Well, that's what I said before. It's the double standards, and even especially men. I mean, mothers, we go hard and tell them don't do this, but the men, the fathers, go hard because guess what? Them same fathers used to do the same thing, so they know what they did to other woman, girl, children. Okay, so they trying to protect their girl children when they know they tear apart other woman children, girl children.
And that can leave an emotional scar that never gets healed.
Correct, you know, very much so.
Well, I'm
And
going to
not
ask you.
only that, they knew what they had to go through because remember, a man would be married to you, and yet and still he may have children outside that you may not know of.
Right.
Correct.
They may
In
think that
between,
they keeping it a secret, but the thing is that back in the days, I remember my joint growing up, the women had to suppress their emotions because they were taught to
correct.
do that. And even though there were other children outside, she now is trying to protect, like you said, her children from experiencing the same thing. You're
Same
trying to
thing.
protect, but then you're not telling them how they can protect themselves.
Unfortunately and sadly, again, that's true. And sometimes it evidently may come about because that's the only way that they know is just to say it and not explain, just do it, protect your reputation.
You know, because you see, our situation as a woman, sometimes we go into a relationship, we want to change somebody, but the only person that we can change is
Give yourself.
ourselves.
Correct.
And we can only give what we have. You cannot give somebody, you cannot give some
Won't have
pour, you cannot pour from an empty cup.
it. That's correct.
And the thing is that, like we discussed earlier, it has to be more than sex. The relationship, because marriage is a relationship, and it depends on the type of relationship that you go into. Is
Want
it
to have.
financial? Is it emotional? What type of relationship you go into before you, because some people do take marriage. Marriage is a contract for most people.
Correct. And basically, that is what it is. It's a written agreement. But the thing about it is, people don't have conversation. And I'm going to say mostly for women, women are afraid to say to the man, this is my expectation. This is what I want. This is what I don't want. This is what I'm not going to do. Okay. They play that role like, oh, yeah, I'm going to cook. I'm going to do this. I ain't doing all of that. So
Or
you,
maybe they did
if I,
maybe they did plan to do it, Bev.
okay, okay.
Maybe
Okay, but no. Some of them already know I'm not doing that. Okay. However, you're supposed to let them know what I'm not doing. The thing is, with women, and I'm just using that's the other side of it. If you say that, we are afraid that if we tell men what's truly in our heart, they're going to leave us, right?
What's
That
wrong with
is
that?
that's why,
No, what's
but
wrong
I'm
with,
saying, no, but I'm saying that's what a lot of women is afraid of that, where you and I
so
would
you're
say, F
saying they
you,
compromise too much?
right? To
But
say,
not only that,
they
when we
play
go
that
into
role.
a
You and
marriage,
I would say, F you, right? Be like these young girls now. What you see these young girls doing? F you, I don't need you, right? Back then, our grandparents couldn't say that because they need that financial stability from a man. And you notice each generation down the line have less dependency on a man.
And
I'm
that's
not saying
fine.
that it's right, okay? But I'm saying this is exactly what's happening.
Well, I'm going to ask this thing from the male perspective.
Okay.
Please,
I've
thank
I've
you.
I've, I've made this decision many years ago because I've heard it and I've experienced it. About 6 years, about 6 or 8 years ago, I heard a young lady say to someone, "I don't cook, I don't do windows, I don't wash, I don't do this, I don't do that." And I've made a decision to say, if if I'm speaking to some person and they go on that list, I'm going to simply respond to them, "I do not do sex." What you expect from
What
me?
does that mean, Mr. Husbands?
What that means is you're coming to me with a laundry list of things that you do not do, but we have not even engaged in a conversation.
mhm.
I
No,
don't know.
maybe she's making sure she puts that disclaimer out there because she perhaps found from her experience or maybe watching her mama that most men want women in the home that could be their mother, cook for them, clean for them, raise their children, and they go outside there and get this sweet woman outside. Do you
I
get
Mhm.
it?
understand that. I understand that, Carmen. That's why I said my response to you is I don't do sex. You and I have not engaged in any sort of conversation to know anything about each other. We don't even haven't even said I would like to take you out for a cup of coffee. But you and I just having a conversation, and you might see that I have an interest, or I may express an interest in liking you, and you're saying, "Well, I don't do this, I don't do that." So therefore, you put your cards on the table. I'm putting my cards on the table. So you don't do all
Maybe,
those things. I don't
Okay,
do.
I'm
maybe,
going to say this. I think you think about it. That's a woman that have, first of all, insecurities, abandonment. So they come and they tell you all the I'm not going to do because guess what? This person is afraid that, okay, if I tell him all of that, what choice do you have? Either you support me or you leave right up
Mhm.
front, correct?
Right.
So
So
so she doesn't want to
but
sit and
Beverly,
have 2 weeks conversation.
you see how confusing that your statement is. You're saying women don't tell, but we see
No,
when
no,
women do tell what happens.
No,
right.
but
So
she's
you know,
telling him what the
it,
relationship is
it,
gonna be like
No, she's
from
telling him
this
what she's
day
not going to
henceforth.
do. She's not telling him what the
right, but
relationship is going to be.
no, right. She's right, but that is
No, but as
basically
far as
a
you're
form
concerned,
of,
because you see, a relationship has to be between two people.
but she didn't
She
build
cannot
one
have
yet.
the relationship by
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
herself.
not one yet. It
okay.
didn't become a
She,
relationship.
but right, she didn't have a relationship yet. But guess what? She's feeling you out.
yep.
You know what?
Mhm.
You know why I say that, Mr. Husband? I do the same bloody thing. I tell men, I don't cook, or sometimes they ask me, "You cook?" No, I don't know how to cook. I love men who know how to cook. That's my line.
You
Okay.
can do that. You
Oh,
can do
okay.
that.
Okay. So if you,
I
he
said you
doesn't
can.
know that.
I say you can do that. You can say some person asks you a question. You can say I don't do that. But if you, to me, it is. Let me tell you from the beginning. I don't do this laundry list. So you have a laundry list. I have a list too. My
So,
But
Bev,
does
response.
Sean?
do you see that no
Yeah.
matter what, there's no winning here, right?
Of
Because
course.
if a woman tells a man, I'm not cooking, I'm not cleaning, the question is though, can we have a middle ground? First of all, how we got there? We're not living together, we're not in a relationship here. How we got there?
Right. We just met and started having a conversation, and you're telling me your laundry list. So I'm giving you my answer to your laundry list
Mm.
because you do not know anything about me. You do not know that maybe I do not want you to cook for me. I don't expect you to cook for me. I don't expect you to do the windows. I don't expect you to do any of those things that you say you don't do.
Yeah,
Because
but
guess
you're
what?
an exceptional. I keep telling you, Mr. Husbands,
So,
I'm
you're
not
an
so
the only
she was.
exceptional.
I,
But
I'm not sure I'm the only person who looks at
no,
life
I'm
this
not
way.
saying you're the only
No,
one.
but
You're an
somebody else,
exceptional.
I understand what he is saying because the other people can look at it as a different way, as a deterrent.
Correct.
With her putting this up there, because in other words, even if the man was thinking about a relationship, with even her telling, because the thing is, from that first conversation, she's setting up her defenses and letting him
Right.
know,
And
which
that's
I understand that she's
She's
not
right.
going to
And
ready.
do,
that's it's
and
and
she's
that's
not
Yes.
going to
exactly
do,
what
and
I'm
if she's not
saying.
going to do, which we're not just blaming, we can't just blame the man, because number one, we can only share what we possess. And if
Right.
this is the way that she's presenting, because like he is saying, I understand, I'm not trying to kiss up to him, but because I grew up and sit around with a lot of young boys growing up, I understand what he is saying from a man's point of view, because it's the way we carry ourselves and the signals that we send out there. Because everybody understanding this differently. Like both of
Or
us can
maybe
look at a
she,
color
well,
and
excuse me,
describe it in a different way.
maybe she just decided, I've seen it happen. I've seen women become housekeepers, maids. I've seen my parent, my mom, my auntie, my
Okay.
girlfriend, and I'm telling them up front, it ain't gonna happen.
Okay.
Did she
Or
pick the
she could
wrong
be
moment?
testing.
Perhaps.
Or she could be just testing. You remember when Gina was on and Gina was saying all the things she saw her mother and she made up her mind that she was not going to do these things,
Correct.
right? So it could be psychological.
That's why I
It
said
could
it could
be
have
that,
been her
right,
experience.
correct. Or she's testing the water. She's like, let me see if I tell him XYZ what I'm not going to, let me see what he's going to do.
Right.
And,
And
and my
let's be
response,
honest. One
right, and
thing
my
I
response
don't
to
do,
her is,
one thing I
my,
don't do good with is double talk and double standard, right?
mhm.
But most of us, we grew up in a society where it was a woman's job to cook, a woman's
Yes.
job to clean, a woman's job to take care of the kids. So if she has that list, I'm not saying she is right, but I say if she had that list, at least I'm empathetic towards her. I'm thinking, what could have been her experience that she feels she need to come with that list in the beginning?
And which is her prerogative. And I'm simply stating my retort to that is, I don't do sex. So where do we go from here?
But then
Friends,
there's other things besides sex and cooking and
friends.
cleaning.
Right,
Right.
right.
But she could listen, Miss. Suppose she was very happy with that. Suppose she wanted. There's some women who wants a man that, but you don't touch me.
Of
Maybe
course.
she would be
But
maybe she'd be happy with that.
that's what I'm
Not a
saying. The
relationship.
question is, where do we go from here now? I've told you what I don't do. You've told me what you don't do. Where do
Go
we go from
nowhere.
Okay.
here?
Yeah,
So
we
you
get
don't.
somewhere. We get to know each other because you're not dealing with a maid. You're not dealing with a
Right,
housekeeper. So now okay. So now I know what you're not gonna do, and you know
right.
what I'm not gonna do. Now
Where do
let
we
us
go from
get
here?
time to know each other. But if
Right.
you're
Where do we
looking
go
No,
for
from
a
but
housekeeper and she's saying I'm not doing it, then there's nowhere to go. Does that make
Right,
sense?
right.
right,
Absolutely. That's what I
right,
said. It's
right,
where do
because
we
she
go
don't
from
want a
here?
sexless relationship.
Right. Right. So where do we go from here? Because guess what? For me, my mother taught me how to wash, sew, clean, take care of myself. The only thing that I'm not great at is being cooking
Mm.
because it was I did what I had to do when my mother left until I came here. And then when I was in a relationship before we got married, I was in a house that had 3 adult women. Nothing against Jamaican, but they have their Jamaican cooking, and that is what they wanted. So guess
Mhm.
what? They didn't want to experience or what I would cook. So guess what? I stayed in the kitchen. I didn't want no battle over that. So for the 10,
Well, it
15 years that we
depends
were
on if
together.
you accepted it. When I was working and I have a professional license, one of my co-workers we used to laugh at work and say she would burn water
Mm-hmm.
because her husband did all the cooking. Anytime we have a party at work, the
Mm-hmm.
husband cooked. She never cooked. She never boiled water.
Mm-hmm.
So he does not. And that's something that he accepted.
Correct.
Because I mean, everybody have a right to accept what they choose to accept. Some people accept a woman treating them bad. Some
Mm-hmm.
women accept a man treating them bad and thinks that because he's treating me bad, he likes me or she
Mm-hmm.
He
loves
loves
me.
me. Good
Or
night.
that's the way. It's like you, Mr. Husband said, it's a prerogative that everybody have to make
Mm-hmm.
in
And
terms of
she made
decision, whether
hers.
it is sex in the city or
Right.
sex on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that people have to accept.
Right. The choices that
Right.
they make.
Yeah.
So
And
that
Mr.
and that
Husbands,
yes.
consider what might have caused her to feel she has to put this disclaimer up.
Well, that's okay because everybody's entitled to what they want and what they don't want to do. All I'm saying is my response to her or that person that comes with their lists is I'm going to state this is what I do not do. Just like you are right to state what you don't want to do, I have a right to state what I don't want to do.
Right.
So
And you know what you guys could have done? You guys could have gone to a museum. You could have gone to the theater because life is more than just housekeeping and sex.
absolutely, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that is going to be my response if some person comes to me that I meet and they give me their laundry list. That's how I'm going to respond. And I'm going to say, okay, where do you go from here? Now, if you want to establish a relationship, you say, well, guess what? Okay, I don't do these things, you don't do that. So can we go to the movies? Can we go to the theater? Can we go to the museum? Can we go traveling? Can we go whatever? Now, you establish your parameters, and if you look at me and say, well, I am the woman, and therefore I'm entitled to do whatever I want, you would just have to accept me as this person. What is that you're offering me in a relationship? And I'm telling you, I'm not offering you this. So what else can we offer each other now? If you want to move forward, we can have that conversation.
Company, friendship, Mr. Husbands,
Yes,
getting
we can
to
have that
know
conversation.
somebody.
Right. The conversation is not closed because you've made your list and I've made
Right.
mine.
That's what I'm saying. There's more to life than just cooking and
Right,
cleaning. We could
right,
order Chinese all day, and there's
right,
maid service. You pay them $60, they come and clean the house.
right. There you go.
Somebody has to cook,
Right. So guess what?
right?
We determine our relationship.
Right. And there's other things. So you don't have to
Absolutely.
end. So you don't have to end getting to know her for that. Like, okay, babe.
No, no,
So
no,
there's
no.
housekeepers. You can even order your soup, your groceries from the store and never step in. So those
Yeah,
things are trivial. Do you understand?
I know, I understand that. I'm just saying that that's my response, not to say it
Right.
does not it ends our interaction. It's that's my response. And I'll see how you respond to my response to you.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. So you know what
exactly.
I would have said? Okay, let's meet on 82nd Street and Broadway. Let's go walk. Let's go to the Natural Museum of History.
Yes, we can do that, but I still feel that if you give me a laundry list,
So the
I,
laundry list is really irking you, isn't it?
because you come in with you don't know anything about me.